Nicktoons have been a staple of so many people's childhoods, and like any other studio, Nickelodeon had a lot of villains, shady businessmen, supervillains, and everything in between. These lawbreakers need to be sentenced, and that's why our court is in session today. Hey guys, I'm Brad with WickedBinge, and this is Sentencing Nicktoons Villains for Their Crimes. Today, we'll be looking at Nicktoons of the 2010s, T.U.F.F Puppy, The Loud House, The Legend of Korra, and Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And don't worry, since some of these shows have a lot of villains, if we miss any, we'll be sure to revisit them in a future video. The first show on our list is T.U.F.F Puppy, which ran from 2010 to 2015. We're gonna start with the lesser-known villain, one who continually commits crazy crimes, Catty Catchwell. Catty is the twin sister of main character Kitty Catchwell and a convicted criminal. In fact, in her first episode, she's already breaking the law by participating in a jailbreak after being arrested by Kitty for Grand Theft Auto, which is another crime. However, one could argue that with double jeopardy, this would be discounted from her final sentence. However, her main goal is a theft, specifically of the Goldfish Bowl, which she never does complete. She also commits the classic trick when it comes to twins in media, and that's identity theft. She pretends to be Kitty Catchwell for a short time, which obviously is a major crime.
That's my evil twin sister, Catty Catchwell.
With all these crimes in her previous prison time, we believe that she would get 3 more years in prison. Next is Chameleon. Chameleon is a recurring villain who annoys Kitty Catchwell and T.U.F.F. Chameleon has plenty of crimes to chat about, but the main one is the obvious one, identity theft, as he pretends to be other people often, which obviously shows a pattern. However, he also has regular theft under his belt, stealing things being the most common form of crime he's known for. Those aren't his worst crimes, with the main ones beyond that being assault, kidnapping, attempted murder, and even terrorism.
For each of your kitty lives!
Chameleon's crimes are violent and intense in nature, which goes to show that Chameleon deserves a pretty hefty punishment. In fact, we believe Chameleon should get 15 years in prison with no parole. And honestly, even that doesn't feel like enough. Now we have the main antagonist, Verminius Snaptrap. Snaptrap is a leader of Doom, who are the main antagonists of the show and the rivals to T.U.F.F. His list of crimes aren't too long, but still full of intriguing things, such as theft, kidnapping, and property damage. His most important crimes are actually much worse than those. He's done things such as child endangerment, abuse, and even attempted murder.
As long as there are kids around, you can't stop me.
It's even implied that he's committed murders in the past. But Snaptrap is incompetent. He leads a pretty radical group of villains that know what they're doing, but for the most part, these villains are little more than nuisances. Snaptrap's crimes are ghastly, but he lacks the mental fortitude to really know what he's doing. Some episodes show him as drastically more intelligent than we're led to believe, but for the most part, his crimes are usually those of passion or of little planning. His punishment, while severe, must be fair, and that's why the sentence is 25 years in prison. If there was more evidence to the aforementioned murder, it's likely this would be changed. The next show on the list is Loud House. The first criminal we'll be talking about may be weird, but a good one nonetheless, the Kitty. The Kitty is a villain during one episode, even being the main villain of some of the Ace Savvy comics that take place in the same universe. While his role and his list of crimes are small, they're still worth tackling. His first and smaller crime is assault, which he does multiple times throughout the episode, proving to be his favorite thing to do. However, what really gets him imprisoned is his repeated attempts at child murder, as he tries to kill Lincoln, Clyde, and the Loud sisters, which would be at least 12 unique cases. The Kitty kinda gets off scot-free, simply because he's a cat, which means sadly, he can't feel the full brunt of punishment. Although it's a rare outcome for cats, given the extreme nature of the Kitty's crimes, the sentence is euthanization, as most dangerous animals are put down. Next is Dr. Carol Linnaeus. Carol is a doctor who works for Incognito Labs and is the arch-enemy of Lisa Loud, appearing in one episode as the main antagonist. Carol is a bad person. In fact, out of the Loud House antagonists, she's probably the one with the most intense crimes. Among her many crimes are the following: abuse, both physical abuse and abuse of power. However, this is her smallest crime, as she's also shown to be guilty of unlawful experimentation, where she's doing her experiments on Flip without permission.
That's my test subject now.
She'd also be on the line for attempted murder, and even that isn't her worst crime, as she's also committed the crimes of human trafficking and even serial torture. With that in mind, her sentence would be life in prison. Her crimes are pretty dark for a kid show. Next, we have the group Suspense. The secret underground society of peach entrepreneurs, Nixing Sour Exports, is a criminal organization found in Royal Woods. This organization is secretive and they've done a lot of crimes. The smallest crime being their conspiracy to destroy all fruit beyond Georgia peaches.
And they're about to destroy all the cherries in Michigan!
They have also committed acts of eco-terrorism and heavy pollution, both of which carry hefty sentences. The only issue is that the group's main members are unknown, but for those we're aware of, like the Miller family, we would sentence them to 15 years in prison, with the chance at parole and heavy fines. That said, the heads of suspense would likely get life if we had more details. The final Loud House criminal is Morag. Morag is a ruthless woman who lives in Scotland and is the main antagonist of the Loud House movie. In fact, she holds a lot of power that allows her to commit a variety of crimes, committing abuses of power and psychological abuse liberally. Morag is also responsible for multiple other crimes, such as incrimination, vandalism, and usurpation. Her worst crimes are actually attempted mass murder, brainwashing, and terrorism, each of them showing off her worst traits. In fact, Morag is by far the worst criminal in the series. We believe her sentence would actually be the death penalty, likely publicly executed via hanging. The next series is Legend of Korra. The first criminal is Amon. Amon is a bloodbender who's the leader of an anti-bender group known as the Equalist. Amon has a lot of crimes that makes it easy to designate a punishment for him. As a leader of the Equalist, his list of crimes begin with terrorism. He committed many acts of terrorism throughout the series and does it often. He's also known for slander, hate crimes, blackmail, and unlawful imprisonment. He's also responsible for attacks of assault, physical and psychological abuse, and even torture. I mean, assaulting and abusing is his thing. He tortured Korra at one point, and is even responsible for an attempted but failed cultural genocide.
The time has come for the Equalists to claim Republic City.
This is what we consider to be the tipping point, as this is by far his worst crime. Just listing this would make his punishment obvious. Amon would be publicly executed, likely by a bender or some mystical ability, which would be an ironic but fair punishment. Amon believes he's right in his quest, but he's still hypocritical and a literal monster. Next is Unalaq. Unalaq was the chief of both the northern and southern water tribes and a student of the entity known as Vatu, making him the Dark Avatar.
We are now one.
Unalaq's list of crimes are unique, however, they're still heinous, ranging from usurpation and kidnapping to torture and slavery. He's even known to attempt fratricide, which is the killing of one sibling, and even successfully committed deicide, which is the murder of a deity of some kind. That's definitely a first. He's guilty of corruption, possession, and even high treason. He's even on the line for crimes against humanity and attempted world domination. His long list of crimes makes his punishment obvious. Unalaq would be publicly executed. More likely than not, it would be by beheading, which would be a befitting sentence for someone guilty of so much evil. Now we have Shyr. Shyr is the leader of the Red Lotus, an anarchist group that is trying to create a new world order.
The revolution has already begun.
He's committed crimes against humanity, among many others, whether it be his jailbreak, his regicide of a pretty powerful official, or his terroristic acts. In fact, he's responsible for many crimes such as child endangerment and breaking and entering, which shows how he'd do anything for his goals, including sacrificing children. Shyr tried to institute worldwide anarchy, and while this is bad, it's nowhere near as heinous as some of the other criminals we've discussed. Because of this, we've decided the best punishment is actually a life sentence in prison. Shyr is a bad guy and does murderous things, but it's much less than the previous two, and as such, we don't think he needs to be executed. Finally, we have Kuvira. Kuvira is the delusional tyrant of the Earth Kingdom during the 4th season. Kuvira uses her power in a very abusive way so that she can lord over everything in her path.
We pledge our loyalty to you, great uniter.
Not only did she usurp her position, but she's committed acts of terrorism, slavery, and brainwashing. And that's on the smaller side. Assault, murder, treason, torture, and even human rights violations are some of her many crimes. She uses her powers and her position to lead in a very fascist way. Much like the other villains, her list of crimes is immense. And we haven't even talked about her worst crimes. Those are, of course, her war crimes. Yeah, she was redeemed in the books, but as it stands in the series, she's got to be punished. She would be publicly executed by the Earth Kingdom, likely through crushing of some kind. With so many death penalties given in this universe, it really illustrates how evil many of its villains are. The final show is the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2018 TMNT cartoon that got canceled way too early. The first criminal is Baron Draxum. Draxum is a warrior alchemist who lives in the Hidden City, where he lives alongside the other yokai. He's well aware of a prophecy that humans would destroy the yokai, and he wants to stop that. To do so, he commits acts of treason, torture, assault, and kidnapping, not to mention also using biological warfare to turn humans into mutant yokai. Whether that be people like Meat Sweats or Bullhop, it's still criminal. However, beyond his unethical experimentation, what puts him here is his attempt at world domination and genocide.
Capture those specimens!
While both failed, he still made progress and as such needs to be punished. While he was hunted down by the Hidden City and he does get better, becoming less evil, he still needs real punishment. This would be very likely an execution, likely through lethal injection. Draxum is a bad guy, even after he left the Hidden City, so it's not like he would have any sort of leniency. Next is the Shredder. Shredder is the revived spirit of a demonic entity that was once a human named Oroku Sakai. He has a laundry list of crimes from ancient times and the modern era. It's implied that he's committed dozens of murders, even slaughtering villages and towns. He's endangered children, neglected his own, did acts of terrorism, and even mass destruction, as he's nothing more than a destructive force. He cares little about life and will do anything for his cause. Shredder is the pinnacle of a genocidal maniac, but he fails at his goal. Shredder wants world domination, and if he succeeded, he would be a massive threat. However, Shredder would be publicly executed via electric chair because of his massive threat to human life. Now we have Big Mama. Big Mama is a mob boss in the Hidden City where she runs the Battle Nexus, an area where gladiator fights go out. Her goal is to turn all of New York City into her Battle Nexus.
New York City will be my new Battle Nexus arena.
Because of this, she's committed many crimes to get this done, from assault and battery to attempted murder. But despite that, she's still doing other stuff, such as unethical experimentation and organized crime. Big Mama is known for her abuse of power, as she's able to take all of her power and people to do anything she wants with little to no consequences. She committed acts of mass kidnapping and terrorism, just so that she can have a little bit of fun, which shows how crazy she is. Similar to Shredder, we believe a public execution, and we say a crushing of some kind would be a fitting end to a spider. And finally, we have Krang. Technically, the Krang are destructive alien species and not a specific character, but we'll be talking about Krang 1 or the Krang leader. Krang is responsible for the future we see in the Rise movie, which has a lot of mass murder, destruction of entire cities, and even genocide. He tries to enslave the entirety of the human race as some sort of revenge for their crimes.
To restore the natural order of things.
He mutilates and tortures those who go up against him, but that's not even his worst crime. His worst crime is attempted universal domination, which goes hand in hand with his attempt at omnicide, which is the extension of the entire human race. And he got close. Krang is a monster and a menace, and he deserves a very strong punishment. Krang 1 should be slaughtered, executed publicly for the entire universe in Dimension X to see. Yeah, that's 4 for 4 when it comes to TMNT executions. Are we getting a little bloodthirsty? Or maybe this series has a lot of evil? Let us know what you think. That's it, guys. Tell us which characters need to be sentenced for their crimes next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.